Okay? So plantar fascia, easy peasy. Okay. Now let's go to the part I love the most of the sole of the foot, of the ultrasound of the sole of the foot, because at first, when I began with the study of the sole of the foot, I had difficulties, and I tried to simplify all this approach and try to make an approach, a special approach, to have a better understanding of the structures of the sole of the foot with ultrasound. And first of all, we need to locate an image and to start with, and to have a good landmark you can see in every patient. Okay, and this image will be this one, between the proximal third of the sole of the foot and the medium third, the intermediate third of the sole of the foot. If we place the probe at this location, we will find several structures. Okay, and we are going to take a look with ultrasound. We are going to turn the image, and we are going to see what happens at this level. And at this level, because I am a romantic of the 80s, okay, for me it's like a Pac-Man. This image is like a Pac-Man. The Pac-Man, I spent a lot of hours with the Pac-Man. The Pac-Man has come to our world to do two duties. First of all, to go away from ghosts, and the second is to eat the dots, okay, of the maze. So the Pac-Man here is eating dots. The first dot he's going to eat will be the tendon of the flexor digitorum longus.
Welcome to mskfreak.com, a new way to learn MSK ultrasound. In this website you will find different contents. Chapters in some of the courses, detailed anatomical explanations with amazing high-resolution 3D drawings, lectures comparing the anatomy with the ultrasound images, and finally real-time demos to reassure the concepts. MSK Freak, your website of MSK ultrasound.
And the second one will be the tendon on the flexor hallucis longus. Okay? So let's see what happens when I put the transducer and see the image with ultrasound. We're going to see the sole of the foot, and we are going to take a look at the first layer and the second layer to understand the structures we are going to see. So if we place the probe over the central region of the sole of the foot between the proximal third and the intermediate third, okay? Remember that the sole of the foot has a quite medial oriented disposition, so slightly medial. Okay, when you put the transducer, slightly medial. Okay, because you need to have this view here. You need to have a good view of this muscle here that will be the flexor digitorum brevis. Okay, you need to have a good view of the Pac-Man. So once you have the Pac-Man, remember the first dot he's going to eat will be the flexor digitorum longus, and the second one will be the flexor hallucis longus. So let's see what happens with the Pac-Man at the ultrasound. There are several structures you need to recognize. This is the highlighting of the structures, and this is the same ultrasound image. Okay, so the first of all, we can recognize the plantar fascia. The plantar fascia is located superficial to the flexor digitorum brevis, you can see here. So this is the flexor digitorum brevis, and this is the plantar fascia, which is quite superficial and very, very wide. Second structure we need to recognize is the maxillary superior of the Pac-Man, sorry, and this is the flexor digitorum brevis. The flexor digitorum brevis will be all this muscle here. The third structure will be the inferior maxillaris of the Pac-Man, that will be the quadratus plantae muscle. The first dot he is eating is the flexor digitorum longus tendon, and the flexor digitorum longus tendon is hyperechoic because we are perpendicular with the transducer at this level. Eating is inside the Pac-Man. Okay? And the second dot will be the flexor hallucis longus, but because of anisotropy, because it's changing from deep to superficial, here is oblique to the probe. So it's anechoic or hypoechoic, sorry, at this level because of anisotropy, and this will be the flexor hallucis longus tendon. Okay. And I will introduce you on depth the peroneus longus tendon, deep to the pacman, and this structure here we are only seeing an oblique view. But if we turn a probe over this structure and direct towards its insertion, you will see a perfect tendon with a fibrillar pattern. We are going to see later, okay? Perfect. So this is the first view of the sole of the foot, the first image you need to locate, and it's very, very important. Now, let's take a look at what happens, how these structures behave as we go from proximal to distal, okay? So let's see what happens. We are at the pacman, always at the begin at the pacman, and we are going to move slightly distal, as you can see here, okay? And as we go distal, you can see how the quadratus plantae muscle is finishing because it's inserting in the flexor digitorum longus tendon. The flexor digitorum tendon is getting flat and is beginning to divide into its terminal tendons. Okay, so how can we see these structures over there? And still you will have muscle of the flexor digitorum brevis. So here you still have muscle of the flexor digitorum brevis. You see the quadratus plantae, which is ending and inserting into the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus, because the flexor digitorum longus dot from here has divided into its terminal tendons. Okay, and if we continue distal, then we see that there's no more flexor digitorum brevis, there's no more quadratus plantae. You will see the division of the flexor digitorum longus tendons, and you will see the division of the flexor digitorum brevis tendons, and of course the lumbricals muscles. So you will see all these structures here, and you will see no more muscle of the flexor digitorum brevis, no more muscle of the quadratus plantae, but the tendons. And you will see the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus on depth, with the muscles on the medial side, that will be the lumbricals, and the tendons of the flexor digitorum brevis over there. So, okay? Perfect. About the knot of Henry. Again, we will start at the pacman. Okay? Remember that the knot of Henry is the crossing between the flexor hallucis longus and the flexor digitorum longus. So we again begin at the pacman, but now we are going to move slightly proximal. So remember that this hypoechoic image here will be the flexor digitorum hallucis longus, and this will be the flexor digitorum longus. And as we move proximal and distal, we are going to see how the flexor digitorum longus is going from medial to lateral respect of the flexor hallucis longus. Okay? And let's see what happens with the ultrasound. You can see the pacman, this is the flexor digitorum longus, this is the flexor hallucis longus, and see what happens with the movement. We are moving the flexor digitorum, the flexor hallucis longus, okay? And you see here the crossing between the flexor digitorum longus and the flexor hallucis. You can see I will follow the flexor hallucis longus here and the flexor digitorum longus. You can see here how they cross at this level. Okay? So this is the Henry's knot, or knot of Henry. About the peroneus longus tendon, remember that we need to orientate the transducer this way, because the orientation of the tendon of the peroneus longus is very oblique. Okay? So if we turn the probe, if we are at the pacman and we locate this structure we saw in an oblique view underneath the pacman, and then we turn the probe over this structure, you will see this perfect fibrillary tendon on depth deep to the pacman. Now we are going to see the pacman oblique, but you see how the peroneus longus tendon will insert on the first metatarsal at this level, okay, with this huge view of the fibrillar pattern. About the adductor hallucis and interossei, it's not so important to check these muscles because they're usually not useful to diagnose problems at this level, but still there's no knowledge as is important. So to detect the transverse head of the adductor hallucis, the oblique head is more difficult to see. It's no interest for me, but the transverse head is quite easy. So you will begin at the metatarsals in the short axis with the transducers placed in the short axis, and then we are going to move slightly proximal. And you will see how, excuse me, here, a muscle, thin muscle appears here, transversal, that will be this here, this adductor hallucis, okay? Okay. About interossei, again, it's easy to see the dorsal interossei, quite difficult to distinguish the palmar ones. So to see the dorsal interossei, we will locate the transducer in the dorsal aspect between the metatarsals in the short axis, and you will see these superficial bipinnate muscles, okay, here and here, that will be the dorsal interossei. So this was the central area of the sole of the foot. Now we are going to take a look at the medial area. To see the medial area, we are going to start again, beginning from the medial central area to the medial area. So we are going to begin placing the probe over the Pac-Man again. Always start with the Pac-Man. Then we will move the probe medially. And you will see a muscle appearing, an oval muscle, a big oval muscle appearing here, that will be the abductor hallucis muscle. If we follow this abductor hallucis muscle, we are going to see a muscle appearing here, deep to the abductor hallucis and lateral to the abductor hallucis, okay? And this muscle appearing here will be the flexor hallucis brevis muscle. So you can see this muscle, this is the abductor hallucis at this level, okay? And this will be the flexor hallucis brevis. And the flexor hallucis brevis will have the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus. As I told you just before, you can see how the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus, of course, proximal will be at the central part of the sole of the foot, but as we go distal, it becomes medial. And it has his relationship going between both heads of the flexor hallucis brevis, okay? And the flexor hallucis brevis will reach the medial and the lateral sesamoid, and the flexor hallucis longus will be in between both sesamoids. So if we follow this tendon, the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus, you will see how the flexor hallucis brevis disappears and the sesamoid bones appear at this level. Between both sesamoids, you will see the flexor hallucis longus tendon. If we try to follow this flexor, this abductor hallucis distally, you will see how this abductor hallucis will insert here in the medial part of the base of the proximal phalanx of the first toe at this level. And we can see all this stuff with a video. This was my first 3D video. I hope you like it. We'll start at the Pac-Man, sorry, I will here. And we will follow, sorry, we will begin again. We start at the Pac-Man and then we move medial to see the abductor hallucis muscle. We will follow this muscle and see what a new muscle appears on depth here. This is the flexor hallucis brevis. If we follow the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus, you can see here between both heads of the flexor hallucis brevis, we will reach the sesamoid bones at this level. Okay. Now we are going to return to detect the abductor hallucis here, and now we are going to follow this abductor hallucis distally. I will see how it inserts in the base of the proximal phalanx here of the first toe. If you agree, we are going to repeat the video from the Pac-Man to medial, abductor hallucis muscle. You will see the apparition of the flexor hallucis brevis with the tendon of the flexor hallucis longus going superficial. they both will join the sesamoid bones here, okay? And the flexor hallucis longus will continue to the base of the distal phalanx of the first toe. Now we are going to follow the abductor hallucis here, and following this abductor hallucis, you will see the insertion, this is a tendon now, and the insertion here at the base of the proximal phalanx of the first toe. Nice, eh? I'm so proud of this video. My first 3D video. Okay. Now let's move to the lateral area. Lateral area, remember that we have several structures. We will have the abductor digiti minimi from the calcaneus to the base of the fifth metatarsal, and we will find the lateral plantar fascia, and we will find the flexor digiti minimi brevis at this level. And remember that this structure, the peroneus longus tendon, is underneath the abductor digiti minimi because at the cuboid groove it becomes plantar. So we will start again at the Pac-Man. We place the probe over there. We locate the Pac-Man. Now we are going to move lateral until we see this oval muscle over there. That will be the abductor digiti minimi. The abductor digiti minimi has this lateral plantar fascia over there. Don't forget to check this fascia when there is lateral pain at the heel. If we continue distal over the adductor digiti minimi, we will see something is appearing underneath this muscle. At the cuboid bone cortex, you can see here, this is the abductor digiti minimi, and you can see here this structure here. That will be the peroneus longus tendon crossing from lateral to the sole of the foot, to plantar to the sole of the foot. Okay? Now, if we move distal, you will see how a muscle appears deep and lateral to the abductor digiti minimi. That will be the flexor digiti minimi. And you can see here the muscle of the abductor digiti minimi and the muscle of the flexor digiti minimi brevis. And of course, we can follow both to their distal insertion, and the abductor digiti minimi will insert in the lateral part, in the lateral area of the base of the proximal phalanx of the first metatarsal at this level, and the flexor digiti minimi brevis in the plantar, in the volar area of the same base of the first of the proximal phalanx of the fifth metatarsal. And this is the video. Again, we start at the Pac-Man, and now we are going to move lateral until we see over there, you can see, this is the abductor digiti minimi with the lateral fascia. We continue distal, and you will see, let's start again, sorry, here. Pac-Man, abductor digiti minimi with the lateral fascia. We follow the muscle, and you will see the peroneus longus tendon here. We are going, because I know you don't trust me, I'm going to locate this tendon on its long axis, and you can see here the peroneus longus tendon underneath the Pac-Man at the sole of the foot. As you can see, a good view of this tendon. But let's return to the lateral compartment, and we will see the appearance of the flexor digiti minimi brevis at this level in the deep part and lateral of the abductor digiti minimi. And if we follow both tendons, we will reach the base of the proximal phalanx of the fifth metatarsal, fifth toe, sorry.